right. We're ready. So, Lieutenant Eldred Collins, where do you come from?
I'm from Freetown, Sierra Leone. I grew up in the city. I attended school in Freetown. And because I found out that the system was not good, and even the government was not working in the interest of the people of this country, I have to leave.
Why did you think the government wasn't working in the interest of?
Well, at least the previous government were just unscrupulous and greedy politicians that are working on their self-interest. Educational facility in this country very, very poor. Health facility very poor. I mean, I just can't make it with the system. I think that was why I left.
And when did you get involved with the RUF?
Some years ago. You should know that the RUF is a well-organized, structured movement. We met with Sankor and we decided to come and see that changes come in our society. See, that was why I joined the RUF, to see that this nation comes to the right, being ruled in the right way.
So when was it that you first started feeling that the system just wasn't working the way it should work?
When I was a little kid. Since I was a small boy, I knew that the system was not working in the right interest of the people. I had that feeling, I had that instinct in me from birth. So I can live up to the expectation where of the previous government under Sheikh Steve in the APC, where corruption was in rampant, killing was in rampant. There were so many the news were now blackout to the world. See, even the international community, the donors, the loans, the money that was spent for development in this our country are not being used in the right purpose. They are being used in the interest of these selfish politicians who are ministers in this previous government. Even when they say they're sending 12 million to Sierra Leone, in actual fact, when it comes to Sierra Leone, maybe it's 500,000. 11.5 has been diverted into various bank accounts. The countryside is very, very poor, underdeveloped. Mineral resources are being smuggled out of the country one way or the other, filling the pockets of some other people. So I couldn't stand it. I couldn't sit and see things, just going out of hand, where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So I have to leave.
So what effect do you think that colonialism had on the government of this country?
What
effect do you think that colonialism had on this country, on the government, on its development or lack of it?
Yeah, in the first place, we know that Sierra Leone was colonized by the British. And then the British they turned the country over to Sierra Leoneans to handle. That was during the independence era under Sir Milton Magai. And the British government left out workout plans and structures that the independent government have to follow. But they did not follow these structures that were built by the British for good governance. They started creating their own. Especially after the death of Milton Magai, when Albert Magai became Prime Minister, there was a whole lot of conflict, power struggling between Sheikh Stephen and Albert Magai. From that time, they had a series of coups. David Lansana had the first coup, and from that time, I knew that Sierra Leone will never be straightened up again, except a revolution takes place in this country.
So when did you first meet Foday Sankoh?
Well, specifically, I can't tell you the exact time now, but I can say from years back, because he too was against the system, and he has the same idea as I did have, and of trying to clean the system, lay a solid foundation for other governments to follow.
So how long was the RUF in the bush fighting?
Well, we have been in the bush since 1991, when we started the onslaught, the war, and say approximately 6 years, we have been fighting. And we fought against 4 different governments. We waged the war against the APC, which was the most corrupt, the government that really brought this country into a hole of darkness. And that government was overthrown by the servants, the NPRC. And after the NPRC, there was a coup within the NPRC that brought in Mada Bio. And Mada Bio started talking peace with us through our leader, Corporal Simina Sanko, for Kaba to complete. But he did not. I mean, in fact, what Kaba did was he tried to bring divisiveness and to stage a counter coup within our camp. And he even went to the extent of causing our leader, Corporal Simina Sanko, to be arrested in Nigeria, and he's up till now. And,
have you ever actually seen the peace accord?
I've seen the peace accord. I read through the peace accord. Even before our leader signed the peace accord, they came to us in our jungles and informed us, and we gave him the go-ahead to sign the peace. The Sierra Leone people feel that now they want peace, we can sit at the negotiation table. We gave him the go-ahead to do that, and they went and did it.
So why do you think the ousted president, Tijan Kabat, never delivered the peace accord to Parliament?
Well, that question can be answered best by himself. Because in the first place, as I was saying, the people of this country has been denied a right. When he was supposed to have had, when he received the peace accord, he was supposed to have brought the peace accord to Parliament. And the country, the people should have known what was in the peace accord, but he did not do that. And he can better answer that question, why he did not carry it to Parliament and why the Sierra Leone people did not understand what was in the peace accord. And you know that peace accord was signed by our leader, Corporal Simina Sanko, and Kaba signed on behalf of the government, and we had guarantors. The international community signed, and none of these guarantors even, worked towards the implementation of the peace accord.
So what do you think needs to be done most in this country right now?
In the first place, our leader, Simina Sanko, should be released. He should be released so he can come back home, so that calculated plans can be worked out. As far as we are concerned, we had instructions for him to come down to town to join our brothers in Freetown. And we are taking command from Major Johnny Paul Kroma, the head of state, until he arrives in Freetown. You see, most of the issues about what can be done or this and that can be best answered by our leader. We can answer for him. We only took instructions from him. See, he has all mandates to disarm, to do anything on behalf of us.
What do you think about these accusations that the leadership inside the RUF or the People's Army are from Liberia?
That's false. Well, I'm not a Liberian. I'm a born Sierra Leonean. Those are just cheap propaganda, tend to discredit the credibility of the RUF, which is not the People's Army. We can be Liberians and then we come and take up arms to fight in Sierra Leone, a country that doesn't belong to Liberia. See, we are Sierra Leoneans. We are against the system, and we are here to put the record straight.
So it takes a lot of courage to stand up to the rest of the world and say, we're not going to take this anymore. What are you planning to do right now to make this country be more self-sufficient?
Well, in the first place, as I told you before, this country has been ravaged by unscrupulous politicians who have been going to the outside world, requesting for aids, asking for all type of money to say, and in the pretext that they are bringing it to Sierra Leone, which of course they are not be bringing it to Sierra Leone, and these monies or these countries have been sending aid to this country. The aids have not been reaching to this country. If they want to find out the facts whether what I'm saying is true, they should come and check, to counter-check whether all these aids have been coming to Sierra Leone and whether these aids have been used for the intended purpose. None of them. They should come and see for themselves. We say we want a better system. We want leaders with honesty, sincerity, and dedication working in the interest of the people. We don't want leaders who are only making money out of politics in this country while the common man is suffering. If you go up country, you will see that our people up till now, they are laying down on the ground. They don't even have fitting clothes to wear. This country has been a country of privilege, not a right. Even the educational standard has fallen below level. Sierra Leone, that was once the Athens of African education, is now down. Our educational standard is too low. Even health facilities, as I was saying, our people have been suffering because of these so-called politicians. They only call elections, they have political parties, they vote, they sell them in power, they forget about the interests of the people. They all only work in their own interest. We want a change now. We are not against constitutional rule. I mean, we really want what we call democracy. And when we say democracy in all aspects, that is from the grassroots. You see, but the democracy that was being practiced in Sierra Leone, it was not pure democracy. It was a self-interest democracy they were talking about. A democracy where you only fight for yourself after attaining to a position, then you start scraping, you start stealing from the people's consolidated fund. And that is what they have been doing.
So let's talk about the election. The RUF didn't get a chance to participate in the last election. Is that true?
In fact, let me tell you, the last election was not a genuine election. You see, let the world know that that election was not genuine. I don't believe that if that election was genuine and that government was a real democratic government, there would have been any coup or something of the kind. That election has so many frauds, so many irregularities. Even Kaba, who is claiming to have been the president of this country, legitimate president, the constitution of the country says you should be in this country for 5 years before you can be nominated to become a president of this nation.
And he wasn't.
He wasn't. He was not even in this country for 4 years. Then how can he be a president of this country? And the other point is, he's not an indigenous born of this land. Then how can he rule our land? Just now you were asking a question that they said RAF people as Liberians. We are Sierra Leonean, but Kaba is not a Sierra Leonean. His people came from another country. And we're talking about having indigenous and also the time the constitution says should all have been in this country before standing to be a president of this land. You see, I mean, they just forced the election. Even the people of this nation said that they wanted peace before election. They used, James Jonah uses all his bogus ideology to impose this same bogus system of election on our people. I want you to know really that this election was not genuine. This election was not the election of the people. Because even we have the population of over 4.5 to 5 million. Not even half of the population voted. Then you're talking about election. You know? This was not an election. It's an appointment. And I want to believe that all these organizations, they're talking about this, so they are in a club. And how can we rule a country with club?
So do you think the international will sort of push the election on this country?
Well, through Kaba and Jonah, who belongs to that UN club, they pushed the election. It was not the wish of the people. How can you have war with almost 3/4 of the population in war, then you have an election? We believe that we should have had peace before election. When we have peace, if there could have been peace, there would have been no more Komajo fighting. You see, but he made a mistake. There was no peace, then they had election. They had the election, and then he went to the extent of trying to bring divisiveness in our camp, allowing our leader to be arrested in Nigeria. The war continued because we didn't see any sense of Kaba, formulating plans for our leader, or also trying to buy our representatives that we sent to Freetown through the Smoluke, who claims to be, a patriot of this country. I can tell you that Desmond is one of the most unscrupulous politicians you have in this nation. He has been holding so many different positions in this country, even his village. Even his village doesn't have a fitting market, which is in the city, Wilberforce village. He doesn't even have a fitting market. They were only working in their interests. So I can just look at them because I know that they are not patriots, they are not working in the interest of this nation. We have come to see changes in this nation for our generations yet unborn to enjoy this nation. The whole world, there were revolutions. There were revolutions in France, there were revolutions in Russia, there were revolutions in so many countries. I don't believe that any country can stand without a revolution. We have to get rid of all these criminals, all these unscrupulous politicians out of our life. then we can have a better country for our people to live in.
What about all the negative propaganda you've been getting? And just the kind of information the press has been passing on has not been true. How do you respond to that?
Well, you see, as I told you before, the press too. These people in Sierra Leone are only after money, sending wrong reporting about your land, for your land to be destroyed. You know, there were so many negative reporting by some unprofessional journalists who are only trying to make money, because they believe that when they bring up some big news, negative news about their own country, they will make profit, not knowing that they should know that they are destroying the image of their own country. They are not professionals, as far as I know. That is why I told them the last time they should always cross-check on information before they do publication. It is better for them. You see, even the press.
But do you think they were trying to sabotage you? Do you really think that?
They are only trying to sabotage themselves, because they are still living in the house. How can you live in a house and you try to damage your house that you are still sleeping in? Then how will you sleep in that house? So they're sabotaging themselves, because they are not sabotaging us. But because we know, as long as we are in for the truth and we are doing the right thing for the country, God will lead this country forward.
What about the rest of Africa?
Every African country has its own problem. We have our own problem. Nigeria, that is taking too much interest in our country, have tons and tons of problems in their home, saying that they want to solve our own ounces of problem. And I want to inform you, Cabal has sold almost most of our land, most of our businesses to the Nigerians. Even when Cabal was president of this country, he was using Nigerians as bodyguards in our land. I mean, he sold our sovereignty. So I mean, I don't see any Nigerians' problem. It's for Nigerians. Sierra Leone problem is for Sierra Leoneans. We do not interfere in Nigerian problem. They have their own system. They have their own constitutions. They have their own way of doing things. You see? Okay, if Nigerians should clean their house first before coming to clean Sierra Leone's house. Nigeria, who has very bad record in human rights, cannot say they can bring democracy to Sierra Leone. Why did Abacha not allow Abiola to be the president of Nigeria when he won the election in a very clean way? Nigeria, who is not a democratic country, can Nigeria bring democracy to another country? Nigeria, who has bad record in human rights, how can the world allow Nigeria, that has bad record in human rights, to head a sub-regional organization like the ECOWAS? They said that sanctions were laid against Nigeria for killing innocent people, activists, and then the world looking and sitting and looking at Nigeria heading a sub-regional organization, and then they say they're imposing sanctions. What about the sanctions that were imposed on Nigeria for what Nigeria did to the activists?
So you are now Secretary of State, Trade, Industry. What is this ministry?
Trade, Industry, and State Enterprises.
Okay. And what did you find was wrong with this ministry when you first came here?
In the first place, when I came to this ministry, I found out that this ministry was not having qualified personnel to run this ministry because of low pay and other incentives that were losing in this ministry. And on the other hand, going through documents from this ministry, I found out that from the APC down to the SLPP, the ministers that were sitting behind here was corrupt. There was that sort of bureaucratic red tapes was purging this ministry. Investors were not encouraged by this ministry. Instead of them giving them encouragement, they were demanding from these investors. These industries were paying quotas at all times to these ministers that were holding this position. The Sierra Leone, I found out that Sierra Leone was now a dumping ground for outdated items like food, medicine, expired items. And also the Bureau of Standards were not working. The state enterprises were not functioning properly for some years. The offices were dirty. the books were out of order. Even the SLPM, the Sierra Leone Produce Marketing Board, most of the assets were sold by previous ministers, previous governments to suit their own personal gains, and so many other things. But as far as we are concerned, this short time I've been in office, have set these industries in the right way. We have reconstructed the management. The ministry have been reconstructed with good personnels. The state enterprises that were not functioning, have now functioning properly. There are trade balances in the streets. Though we have a trade liberalization policy, but still yet profiteering in our country is a crime. So we have been talking to business people to be moderate in their prices, not to escalate prices, and we're having a very good cooperation. You can even talk with the business people. They will know that since I assumed office in this ministry, the relationship is more cordial than before. Then we provide profit repatriation and all the other rest. Right now, I think the country is stable. Not like when they say that nothing is in this country, so they're all lies. Because we found out that these exploiters are only coming to this nation just to collect our mineral resources and get them out of the land without doing anything else. So as far as we are concerned, for now, we're still working hard, and we'll work hard to lay that foundation for this ministry.
So, is your ministry working at full strength? Are all your employees here, or do you have new employees?
My ministry is working in full strength. Since I assumed office, of course, when I came first, the ministry was not. But when I took office and the people knew I was in this office, the whole staff started working, and they're working very hard. I commend them for that. And they're all Sierra Leoneans. One of the things I would do in trade and industry is to get the daily retail prices for these commodities like rice, flour, cooking oil, onions, potato, sugar, the cube sugar, Cerelac for babies, lactogen, Gaigas, palm oil, tomato paste, petrol, diesel, and kerosene. See, these are most of the things we are always on daily rates. We check the prices to see that our people have these things in the best price. Though this is a competition, we have competitive trade balances. So therefore, we always check these prices to see that they don't be too hard for the common man to live.
And so what else do you do here at Trade and Industry? Do you encourage investment?
Well, our industry is responsible to formulate economic policies. We encourage investors, as I told you before. Originally, those ministers or those that man this office before was in the habit of collecting huge sum of money from investors, discouraging investors from this country. But as far as we are concerned, we are here to protect the interests of all investors and also the nation's interests. And I can assure you that more investors are coming in, and new investors are still coming in. They are talking to me, and I said that we have to really invest in industries. Also, we have to invest in agriculture, because we believe a country that cannot feed itself is not a nation. A nation that doesn't feed itself is a nation. So most of them have started operating. And very soon we'll be having the zinc factory to be built. Now we are deciding to spread our tentacles around the country. We want to have these industries in various districts of our nation, instead of always centralizing this thing in Freetown, where Freetown is very small and be too congested. You see, so that is what we are doing. And we also have state enterprises. State enterprise that is government-owned private parastatals. So we are doing all our best to see those things in correct perspective.
So what do you want most for this country right now?
Well, as far as we are concerned, for me, I believe that investors should come to invest in industries. And because when you invest in industries, these industries will create more job opportunities for our citizens. It will also try to uplift the living standard of our people. And also, when the goods that are going to be imported to Sierra Leone should not be expired goods. As since I took office, I found out that most of the goods are expired, and that brings more disease and the unhealthy situation in our country. I want the importers should always import standard goods into this our nation.
I've showed a lot of loyalty for Foday Sanko, especially when there was an attempt to dismantle the RUF. Why do you think that is?
Because we believe that our leader, Corporal Foday Sanko, is the only man that can bring this country in the right perspective, because he has the country at heart and his ideology is in the best interest of this nation, because it goes down to the grassroots of this nation. So because of that, we have a loyalty to him and we will never relent. We will continue to support our leader. All we are asking now, Nigeria should release our leader. The whole world should know. United Nations should know. ECOWAS should know. Most of them signed a peace accord. They sat down and they allowed Abacha to arrest our leader. They didn't say anything. Now Kaba is out, they want to say something. They should think about that, they should reconsider themselves. They should release our leader, Corporal Sanko, so he can come to join us in Freetown. So this country can be built for the better. Not to encourage a man like Kaba, who is a criminal, to continue his onslaught, killing innocent people, using Nigeria to kill our people in this nation.
Look at me.
Michael.